Hello, I'm Adrienne Laborowit, Chief Strategy Officer at Truex Health Strategists, and I'm here to welcome you to our very special edition of True Conversations with our featured guest, Mark Cuban. Thank you all for taking the time to join us for this very important conversation on how Truex Health Strategists and Mark Cuban Cost Plus Drug Company are collaborating to lower prescription costs and add transparency to the unsustainable drug pricing model. You will learn why one of the most successful businessmen thinks healthcare is the most important problem to solve in our country today. And most importantly, why employers and patients need a transparent PBM. I have the pleasure of introducing our two Marks. Of course, Mark Cuban almost needs no introduction. He's been an entrepreneur since the age of 12. He has bought and sold businesses for his entire career. And he's most recently co-founded Mark Cuban Cost Plus Drug Company to bring transparency to the drug pricing model and to lower prescription costs for patients and employers. You know him best on his appearance on Shark Tank as being an investor there and owning, of course, the Dallas Mavericks. I'm also very proud to introduce our own CEO, Mark Williams, who is the founder of Truex Health Strategists. Mark is a fourth-generation pharmacist and is on a mission to create a new category in the PBM space, being a health strategist. So what does being a health strategist actually mean? It means that you have a pharmacy team by your side to help you stay ahead of the ever-changing pharmacy trends, help lower costs, and most importantly, take care of patients. We are not here to just process prescriptions. Both Marks have roots in Indiana, but what they have in common the most is being entrepreneurs who are crazy enough to think that they can disrupt the industry. And with that, I will turn it over to them.
We really need to get the show started with our guest speaker, Mark Cuban. This webinar will be about transparent pharmacy pricing and how the healthcare system is broken. So if you're about the status quo, this webinar is not for you. So we're very proud and honored to have one of the most successful entrepreneurs who inspires new entrepreneurs with the show Shark Tank. Well, welcome Mark Cuban, founder of the Mark Cuban Cost Plus Drug Company. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So first of all, I got to start off with the story. I'm a fourth-generation pharmacist. My family has been in the pharmacy business since 1899. And when you were first starting the Team Cuban card, one of our pharmacies in Bloomington, Indiana, Williams Brothers Healthcare Pharmacy in Bloomington, was your first pharmacy that signed up. And I know you have
we're very thankful for that.
Bloomington and IU. So I thought that was kind of ironic.
I miss Bloomington.
Yeah. So it's kind of irony there. And but I know you have a passion for independent pharmacy. Tell me what you think the independent pharmacy plays a role in the healthcare system and how important is it?
Well, I speak to a lot of brand manufacturers, generic manufacturers, and I always make the point to them of how important independent pharmacies are because they're the last 5 feet in the healthcare chain that is there to know their patients and protect them.
Right.
Because, there's so much uncertainty and so much distrust of the healthcare system, particularly on the financial side, that patients now trying to save money are going here, there, and everywhere.
Right.
And that local pharmacist that's known your family your entire life, from the time you were born in some cases, is important, right? And it's important. At Cost Plus Drugs, we have pharmacists review every order. We ask patients for all their medications, all their supplements, all that kind of stuff, right? But we haven't known them their entire lives. We're not looking them in the eye. We're not up to speed on their own personal circumstances like an independent pharmacist can be. And that's so critical, particularly in small towns and medium towns where there's not as much healthcare available to people there. And so, the more I got into this industry, the more obvious it was that the big three, in particular PBMs, were abusing small town pharmacies. And we wanted to be in a position to try to help them because if we don't help prop up independent pharmacists, there won't be any. And when there aren't any, then we know who the default pharmacist is, and they're the ones owned by PBMs or the captive pharmacies, and that's bad for everybody. So that's a big, those are the reasons why, those last 5 feet being critical to care. And the fact that I don't want it to be, all pharmacies owned by, 2 or 3 companies.
Yeah. Well, I started my career back behind the counter. So I understand how important that patient care is. So, but we're here and we're really excited to announce that our PBM, Truex Health Strategist, with 400,000 lives, we're going to be able to offer the Mark Cuban cost plus pricing to all 400,000 lives. And we think that's really important, that people can go online, check out the pricing when it makes sense, get the prescriptions through your services, and really save money. And the big thing is we're able to adjudicate that claim, and it goes to their deductible out of pocket.
Yep.
And the employees and employers save money. And we think we're really excited about that.
I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited for you guys, right? Because there's so much to when I go in and I talk to major companies all the time.
Yeah.
And I try to talk to the CEOs in particular. And the reason I want to have a conversation with them is it's not their core competency to understand how their healthcare benefits work, right? But when I talk to groups to them, one question I always ask, whether it's the HR people, the consultants, the CEOs, the CFOs, I always ask them one question. What's the one thing the big 3 PBMs do that's unique or differentiated that you can't live without?
Right.
And then I just wait. And no one's ever raised their hand. No one's ever said, this is the one thing, which is the beautiful thing for TrueRx. There is nothing that the big ones offer that you can't offer, but there's a whole lot of things that you guys can do that the big 3 PBMs won't do.
Well, the thing it's lost is patient care, right?
Yeah.
How many, you call one of those guys, how many buttons does it take to get to a real person?
I would tell you, that's not even the worst of it. That's not even the worst of it, right? If you're an employer, you could have 100 employees, you could have 100,000 employees. If you don't have access to your claims data to understand what's going on within your organization, is there an opioid crisis that you don't even know about, right? We're not talking about individual patient information. We're just talking about, oh my God, there's 697,000 scripts for, oxycodone, right? Or trying to deal with GLP-1s. What's the strategy for GLP-1s when you're not even allowed, you don't even know your overall claims data? How many Humira's prescriptions do you have? And how much could you save going to TrueRx and cost plus drugs with Usimry at $594 a month, as opposed to, even with their biosimilars, net after rebate, thousands of dollars a month. And so you don't have access to that information. So not only is it going to cost you more money, but you're not going to be able to focus on the wellness of your organization. And that's critical.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not having access to your data is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, and what's even worse? You guys, those big 3, they don't give it to the manufacturers either. So like going back to GLP-1s like Novo and Lilly, they don't know the number of prescriptions. So, and the contracts, which you guys know better than I do, with the sponsor says the sponsor can't talk to Novo or Lilly, right? They're not allowed to talk. And you guys are limited on what you can do as well.
Yeah.
And so with TrueRx, those days are gone because you guys are true pass-through. So you can work with the sponsor can work with the manufacturer. Sorry, there goes my tripod. And all these pieces come together to form a virtuous cycle as opposed to a vicious cycle that the big PBMs create. So that's the excitement to me, that you put the sponsors and the patients back in control without having to get stuck with lack of information, having to pay for that information. I mean, literally, they force companies to pay for their own information just to get critical data. That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. So explain to our audience how your cost plus model works
Mhm.
How is it different than anything else?
Sure.
And it's transparent. Just explain all
I'll go through
that
the whole
to
thing.
your
Yeah.
audience.
So when we first got started, believe it or not, Alex, my co-founder, and I were talking about the industry, and I was still new to it. I understood healthcare, but I had a lot to learn about pharmacy. There's more acronyms than there are in NBA analytics, right? WAC, NADAC, da 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 da. It's insane the number of acronyms.
Yeah,
So I had to learn all this stuff, and we literally were having a conversation about the farmer bro. And I was asking him, how can he raise the price of Daraprim like that?
right.
Right? I mean, why and how? And to me, that was immediate evidence of the fact that this was not an efficient market. And so as I dug in to see, okay, what was missing, it was really, really obvious that there was no transparency. That, if you think about the supply chain, if you will, um, a doctor says, okay, Mark, you need a prescription for this, right?
Right.
And then the next question is, can you afford it? Here's what it's going to cost. It's not that at all. It's what pharmacy do you use, right? Oh, I use
Right.
Williams Brothers. Great, that's great. But you've seen it more than I have by a long shot. Somebody's standing there, they have high deductible plan
Yeah.
or no plan, and they're terrified, and they get to the counter, realize what it costs, and the laws on what you can do if they say they have insurance and can't do, and all those things. And
Yeah.
it's terrifying for them, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, we're going to do this differently. If transparency is the problem, when you go to Cost Plus Drugs, we're not only going to show you the price, but we're going to show you our cost.
Right.
Because when you think about what's really missing in the supply chain for patients and sponsors and manufacturers and pharmacists, it's trust, right? That is what independent pharmacies hang their hat on, right? You can trust us, right? We're going to give you the right answers. We're going to do what's right for you. But beyond that, there's a complete lack of trust. And so we said, when you go to costplusdrugs.com, we're going to show you our actual cost. We're going to show you our markup. We're going to show you our shipping and handling and fill fee. So you know exactly how we determine the price. And if our cost goes down because our volumes go up as they have, we're going to pass that on right to you. And so
Right.
being transparent and showing all that was the smartest thing we did. And you can go to Cost Plus Drugs and sign up to get our price list every month. And so, and that actually had the biggest impact of anything. So if you saw like the FTC report on the big PBMs, they used our pricing because our price list was available, right? You see research from Harvard and Vanderbilt and all these places where they're comparing what Medicare pays versus what it would cost. That's because our price list is available. And so making our price list and showing our cost is the number one thing that we've done. And it was actually hard at the beginning because people didn't know what to make of us, because you hear about people coming in all the time. We're going to change this, we're
Right.
going to change that. And then when it's all said and done, they work through the big three and it's all the same stuff, right?
Right.
And so, we decided we were going to be different by publishing everything.
Well, that's why it works good for us, because we're transparent. And in our contracts, we say that we're going to charge our employers what we pay the pharmacies. So when you post your pricing, doesn't make any difference to us. When it's lower, that's when the patient's going to get their medication.
Exactly right.
And that's why we work really well together. So does the Big Three have options to your price for the Mark Cuban Cost Plus? Can they get an option to that?
Meaning they buy from us? Or
Will you allow them to load their pricing into their system? I know they won't, but
no, yeah, oh, for sure. We'll let anybody. We're Switzerland, right?
Yeah.
If they want to, because obviously, you already know the answer to this. We get sponsors all the time saying, "Can we add that work with the big three?" And they ask, "Can we add Mark Cuban Cost Plus Drugs?" And you already know the answer. The answer is no every single time, right? Even when we started Cost Plus Drugs, I didn't know any better. So we were working through a big insurance company and their own PBM. And I was like, okay, add Cost Plus Drugs, right? I just started this company. They're like, hell no, we're not going to do it. I'm like, well, it's my company, right? And so, obviously we started working through ourselves, and we dumped them. And, we only use their out of network stuff now for insurance.
Right.
excuse me, and we self-insure everything else. So yeah, to your point, they could add us, but they
They're
won't
not. Yeah.
because,
They
it
can't
just
spread.
destroys their whole business model.
Right. Right. So the PBMs have been getting away with this non-transparency and the games and all of that for years, right? How have they done it for years and years, and nobody is changing and going to these transparent PBMs like True Health Strategist,
Right.
right?
Right.
Why is this keep
So
going on?
I've been in the technology industry for a long time, and there used to be a saying that no one ever got fired for buying from IBM. So I used to be in meetings, right? And it'd be like, this technology is better, this software is better. But Mark, you're a little company, right? I
Mhm.
started my first technology company when I was in my 20s. And it'd be like, you're this young kid, right? Why do I trust you over big bad IBM?
Right.
And it's the same thing now, right? But nobody talks about IBM like that anymore, right? You don't hear anybody said nobody anymore. It changed, and it took a long time. But as I mentioned earlier, when I sit down and talk to CEOs in particular, they just don't know any better. They just see the rebate check. And, the big three are happy to write a bigger and bigger check. But then I sit down with them and I say, well, who do you think pays for that rebate? And they're like, oh, the manufacturers. I'm like, no, the manufacturers don't pay for it. They're not losing money. Do you think they're
Right.
giving it away, right? Do you think the PBMs are not making money on this? Let me explain to you how a GPO works, right? And let me explain to you how, first of all, the first problem in the chain is when they tell you they're passing through the entire rebate, they're lying to you. Let me
Right.
explain how that works. They have a subsidiary that they've opened up within the last couple of years, maybe in Ireland, maybe in Japan. I don't, and one, two are out of the country, one's in the country. And pick a brand drug, they'll negotiate the GPO, this group purchasing organization that they now own, will negotiate an 80% rebate on a brand drug. And then they'll go to the PBM that owns them and say, we'll sell you this drug at a 50% discount.
Yeah.
They keep the 30% in their profit, right? And that gets in accounting, it gets pushed up to the parent PBM. But now the PBM gets to say to the big employer, oh, guess what? We're passing on 100% of our rebate to you. And contractually, they're not lying, right?
Right.
But they're ripping them off. So that's one key part of it. And then, when it comes to rebates, I'm like, let me tell you who really pays for those rebates. Your sickest employees,
Right.
because the higher the rebate, the higher the deductible, right?
Right.
And so when your deductible is higher, and even if you have a great deductible, let's just say it's $1,500, which is a really good deductible for most
Sure.
companies, right? And let's just say you have somebody who after tax makes $30,000 a year, just a normal, hardworking person that goes to work for you every single day, right? That person probably doesn't have $1,500 sitting around,
Right.
right? And so when they go to the pharmacy or the hospital, whatever it is, right, that they don't have that $1,500. So first thing that happens is they don't go.
Right.
They don't go to the doctor, they don't get the prescription, or they don't fill the prescription if they get it. Now, do you want to read on the front page of your local newspaper and then the Wall Street Journal that one of your employees died because you took a higher rebate? Oh, Mark, I didn't understand that was the way it works.
Right.
And then I'm like, but wait, there's more. Your oldest employees, right? The people that have worked for you the longest, they're the ones that are taking the statins, the blood thinners, right? And are paying their copay, their $20 or $10 copay every single month. And that's eating up their take home pay. And if you work through a pass through PBM like TrueRx, you probably can save enough money to make it a zero copay,
Yeah.
which is like giving them a raise.
Right.
So because you're dealing with the big three PBM and think the rebate money is coming from the manufacturers, no, it's not. And it gets worse. Because of that, you don't control your own formulary, right? So they're going to put a drug in there, and I give them the whole Humira, Usimary comparison and example, and they're going to emphasize their drug, and so that they can get the rebates because they get that rebate from the manufacturer, and that's what subsidizes part of the rebate that you get, right? So not only do they control the formula and what goes on there that benefits them the most, but if there's a new drug that comes along, you're not going to be able to add it at all.
Right.
And if the manufacturer has something better, they're going to play games with the formulary to de-emphasize, to punish the manufacturer. And so there's just so many games because you wanted a bigger rebate. But wait, there's more, right? That brand drug that's being prescribed to your employee that needs that medication, when they take it to the local pharmacist,
Right.
that PBM that you signed the contract with will not pay them their total cost. If they came on Shark Tank, it'd be a disaster. I'd destroy them all,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I know
They don't
about
like
that.
hearing, they don't like hearing, and if I've sat with big banks and I said, look, you have tens of thousands of branches around the country. And in those smaller towns, there's a small pharmacy that is the lifeblood of care for probably even your bank employees. And you signed a deal that causes them to lose money
Yeah.
on every brand, not somebody else. You, Mr. or Ms. CEO, you signed that deal. Do you want to be known for putting that local pharmacy out of business? Because very often that bank is the largest employer in that town. And so it's your responsibility. And once you start talking to CEOs about this, and I say, look, I understand this is not your core competency. And that's why I'm here to explain it. And let me just tell you, this is a real business. You know it. You have billions of dollars in revenue, whatever. Your HR person's terrified to tell you all this.
Right.
They know it, but they don't want to be the ones telling you that $50 million check is going to stop. But let
Right.
me just tell you, that $50 million rebate is just a loan.
Oh,
And they clawed back from you every minute of every day. And it used to be they would deny claims, right, using pre-auth. Not anymore. Now they
oh,
want to spur utilization, right?
yeah.
Because the more the doctors that they probably own, prescribe to your employees and their families, even if it's not clinically the best thing to do, the more they get, the more utilization, the more rebates they collect, and the 30% they keep, and
Yeah.
the less money, the more money they take from the local pharmacist. And then not only do they not fully pay them on the brand medications, but then they hit them for all these fees. They're intentionally trying to put the independent pharmacy in your small town that your bank supports out of business, right? How can
Yeah.
you deal with that? How can you accept that? Well, I didn't know, Mark. Well, now you know. And so what we're seeing is we're able to tell them your next RFP for healthcare and particularly for pharmacy, you have to include this list of you have to include cost plus, we say, and then you want to open it up to pass through PBMs like True RX, because if you don't, all those things I mentioned, not only in your data, ripping off the local pharmacies, not controlling your formulary, overutilization, lying to you on rebates and not ability to know, not only owning your data. Why would you do business with a company that's stealing from you and lying to you? Okay.
Yeah, you should, I can read a contract and I can point out exactly, okay, here, and here, and here, and in one sentence in the contract that's not in any of the big contracts. Do you charge employers what you pay the pharmacies? It's just a sentence. It's never in there.
Never.
And yeah, and
Never.
it's crazy. So where you been all my life? I mean, having an ambassador like Mark Cuban out there shouting from the rooftops all these things. I mean, it's going to help our business, but I can't afford you as a sales guy, so I guess I'll just take you as an ambassador.
I'm here for you, Mark. I'm here for you.
I'll just take you as an ambassador and bring you on our webinars, and you keep telling the story.
I'm happy to, man. Yeah, take this video, show it to every CEO in Bloomington, show it to the president of IU, right? Because I've started to have these conversations with her.
All right.
Feel free to show this to her.
I will.
Put it up on your website wherever you need it. Use it wherever you need to.
I will. So, okay, I'm an entrepreneur and I think I can change the world. We're a different breed, right?
Yep.
And so I'm trying to start a movement because I don't want to be known as a PBM. I mean, it's kind of a dirty word. Yep. We're health strategists, and we're trying to have a movement where that's what we're known as. Not as a PBM, but health strategist, right? We're going to be part of your benefits team. We're going to do what's best interest of your patients, and we're going to do what's in best interest of the employer.
You're a health systems integrator. you're not doing technology, you're doing all the health systems and optimizing for your clients. Let's show them the benefits you've gotten. Let me show you how I cut your drug spend per employee per month from $18 to $12. Like with my companies, we're direct contracting everything. And I mean, just on the pharmacy side, we're saving, 30, 40% a month. And because I get to see all the claims on a daily basis, I know who's using us. Some people want to use a local pharmacy that's not part of TCC. And so, and even though we're sending them, okay, I'm not a local pharmacy, a chain pharmacy that happens to be close by, right? And so, but I get to see all that. I get to see where the prescription was filled and, whether it fit or what and what was paid. And so just being able to have that data on a daily or weekly basis gives both of us, the health strategist,
Right.
For me and you guys as a health strategist, the ongoing daily data to review with them, right? And that connection, because that doesn't happen from the traditional PBMs, right?
Right.
The big three PBMs. So my suggestion is, as the with your role of the TPA, get them a claims report on a daily or weekly basis. Make sure the CEO sees it, not just the CFO or HR person, and do just a quick summary of the percentage percentage savings, the amount you saved, right? Any questions that you might want to consider asking of your HR person, because that's what makes you a true consultant. That's where
Right.
you show the value of the data as opposed to here's just the money I saved you, because savings is obviously important, right? And the games they play with specialty drugs, et cetera, et cetera. But understanding the value of your data and how you can improve the wellness is far more leverageable to a CEO, right? Let's see if we can reduce the days missed. Let's see if we can get better care for the members' families, because if the 6-year-old is at home, then mom's probably at home missing
Right.
work, and all these things, it's a virtuous cycle at that point where I think that would be the approach off the top of my head that I would take, where it's like, okay, Mr. CEO or Miss CEO and CFO and benefits person and consultants, if they use a consultant, right?
Right.
Here's a maybe for the CEO, dailies 2 months, depending on the size of the company. If they have 100 people, they'll get a daily, right? They have 1,000 people, they'll get it weekly or monthly. And so getting them that report that has a complete analysis and suggestion, that would be
So,
unique in the industry and something that sets you apart and something that you could show future, prospects on what you do, and keeping cumulative totals of that. And to your point of it taking years, you literally could take that to the bank and borrow it against it for your rebates if you wanted to, right?
right. Yeah. So we are still trying to convince, it's still the big three have 80% of the market, right? And we don't have any investors, so we're still independent totally.
Sure.
And that really gives us an opportunity to do what's best interest of our clients. We don't have anybody to answer to. And we have people like you that are ambassadors out there, not enough, but some,
Right.
about,
somewhere.
hey, we got to change this.
That's how you become a health strategist, because you're helping them define their strategies.
So we've talked about a lot of different things. I appreciate your insight and your passion to make this movement. But how in the world and why? I mean, you're a pretty busy guy. Shark Tank, 200 companies. Why did you get into this industry to disrupt it? I'm just really curious.
What's more important, right? What industry is more important right now than the health of this country? It's not like we keep on hearing statistics about the health and wellness of the 330 million people in this country, and everybody says we're getting healthier.
Yeah.
And it's not like we look at the economics of this industry and we say, hey, it's the biggest industry in the country, if not the world, and the economics are getting better. When I hear that, and then I look at it And I say, well, what's missing? I mean, it's not about legislation, even though some,
Yeah.
making them pay you full. It's just about educating CEOs, right?
Right.
Because that's 150 million lives that are covered by self-insured employers right there. And those employers, we're not asking them, we're not walking in saying to CEO, okay, the deal's not quite as good, but right, help us out here. We're saying we're going to save you money. The deal is better across the board. You're going to own your own data, and we're going to help you improve the wellness and health of your employees and their families.
Right.
What's more important to you than that? Do you want your folks showing up for work healthy and ready to work?
Yeah.
Or do you want them bitching and moaning, right? That they can't come to work because their kid's sick and whatever reason, right? Do you want to be on the front page of the paper because somebody in your company died because they couldn't afford the $1,500 deductible? Or do you want that person coming to work healthy and smiling? That's why
Yeah.
this has been the easiest industry I've ever been involved in to disrupt. I mean, I was one of the first local and wide area networking dealers in the country back in the 80s.
Yeah.
In the 90s, we started the streaming industry so we could
Right.
listen to IU basketball, right? I
Right.
had the first all high definition TV network, HDNet, in the early 2000s. Messed up the NBA in a lot of different ways. Some people liked it, some people don't, right? So I have a feel for disruption, right? And where to
Right.
find it. And this is the easiest of all of them because like back in streaming, I used to say, well, you want to listen to Don Fisher and his calls of IU basketball, you have to have a PC, a modem, you have to download these 3 pieces of software, and you have to figure out how to make them work together. That's hard, right?
Yeah.
That was hard, right? You want a new high definition television, it's going to cost you $20,000 in
Right.
2001, but the prices will come down over time. That's why we're starting it. This is just like, okay, CEO, let's just save you money. And you won't work with the biggest companies, but that's okay because there's nothing they do that's worth a damn that
Right.
sets themselves apart except loan you money. So this is in your own best interest. Let's go for it. Okay, my RFP comes up in 6 months, in 18 months. All right, we're not going anywhere. We'll help you. We're using this consultant. Well, don't you think the fact that you need a consultant is a red flag in and of itself for something like this? That's just
Yeah.
like go to the doctor, go to the hospital, or go to the pharmacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a reason why, and a big chunk of them are getting paid in the back door. They're getting
Oh.
paid per script, right?
Yeah.
They're making more. Your consultant's probably making more than the pharmacies that you work with are making.
Yes. Way more than the pharmacies and even more than us at times.
Yeah.
Just for consulting. And we're doing the pharmacy. We're taking care of the patients. I think that's where it gets lost. Is we took over a big client, 50,000 lives. That's pretty big for us.
That's very big.
And the first thing they said was their patient was, oh my God, we got our medication, we got taken care of. And
It was the Pacers?
the HR people were just out of their minds because they were with one of
Did
the
you
big
say it was the
ones.
Pacers?
No.
Oh,
It
you
was,
should go to Herb. Go to Herb Greenberg. Tell him I recommended you.
Okay. All right. I got a list. I'm keeping a list now, Mark. But
Yeah. No, I said Herb
anyway,
Greenberg. That's my other buddy. Herb Simon.
Herb Simon.
Herb Simon. Yeah.
But that's what gets lost in this thing is the patient, right? And how they're taken care of and how they're not taken care of and how they don't get their medications, not because they can't afford it, just because they can't get a hold of anybody.
Yeah.
And
that matters too.
Yeah. So there's something to say about that. Well, listen, we've talked about a lot of things. Is there anything that I missed that you would
I think you alluded to it right there just now, Mark. Probably the biggest challenge when you talk to those CEOs is when they send you to HR and HR is terrified about the conversion, right?
Right.
What does it cost to convert, or what's it take? And my response always is, well, you change insurance programs and offer new insurance programs every year.
Right.
And so employees are used to going through the whole new process of getting their new card, picking a new plan, all that. And so TrueRx is going to be right there to hold your hand through that.
Yeah.
They'll call the employees. They'll call the doctors. For you, Simri, we're going to be the ones that call the doctors and make sure that they're comfortable with them, get them to change the prescription so that you can save all this money and your employees are going to be, and their families are going to be even happier. So I think the missing link is putting together a way to make everybody feel comfortable that you'll make the transition easier than the big three do it, just continuing their programs. Make sure that you get the calls when I talk to CEOs, and that I recommend you. And you know, I'm not going to recommend just one. I got to be fair. I got to be Switzerland, right?
Oh, no,
But
no.
but but you guys, you know, there's a couple that are really, really good, and you guys are in that mix, right?
Okay.
And just, you guys are going to change the game. I like the idea of health strategists. I think that's important, but I think key to that is having, not just getting them to where PBMs used to get them, but to your point, using the data to be a true health strategist,
Right.
right? So that the CEO is connected to what's going on, because you know what's going to happen if you're big three and you're losing business, which they are. Their response, you know what their response is going to be: bigger rebate checks.
Right.
Even if they're losing money, they'll keep those bigger accounts, right? Through bigger rebate checks. And so you've got to give them reasons to say, no matter how much more money they give you, the health and wellness is more of the lives you cover is far more important. The productivity gains are far more important.
Right.
The community gains are far more important than the extra $1 million, $5 million, $10 million they're giving you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we won't be for everybody, but I think there's enough. I think there's enough shift now. I think people are talking about it. I think we could break the market wide open if we can get out there and tell our story the way people understand it. So that's my
as
hope.
an entrepreneur, when I see an industry where everybody hates the biggest companies,
yeah,
that's the right industry to go after.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to keep plugging at it. You know, like I said, I was out there shouting the same thing you're shouting in 2007 when I started, but the problem was I wasn't Mark Cuban.
Nah, come on now. You know, but the timing's different now too, right?
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
The numbers have gotten up so high, and they become so vertically integrated that, and it's become so obvious that, you know, they're destroying, if not distorting and destroying, an entire industry. So
yeah, for sure. Well, it's prime, and we're going to go out there and try to build it. And our thing, every employer we get, we know we're going to do what's in the best interest for them and their members, which become our patients. And that's what we feel good about.
You should. You absolutely should. Because that's what matters. That's why we're in this business.
Absolutely.
If you're not making people healthier and in a manner that they can afford, what's the point?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, listen, Mark, I appreciate so much for you to come on our webinar. You're amazing. I've seen you go out there and spread the word. I so much appreciate we have an ambassador like you for our industry. Grab a couple other people you know with
I'm
big
trying.
names.
I'm trying for sure. I'm pushing. I'm talking to governors. I'm talking to senators. I'm talking to presidential candidates. And they get it, right? They're starting to understand it. And I'm trying to embarrass them, right? You know, I'm sitting there with the governor saying, look, you want to lower the cost of prescription medications in your state, but your Medicare program, you know, or your Medicaid program works with a big three PBM. I've talked to manufacturers. It's insane, Mark. I literally sat with a group of manufacturers and I asked them, for the medications that you manufacture, do you get reimbursed the full amount of what they charge you in their benefits program? And the answer is no.
I know.
I'm like, so why are you dealing with them? Well, we're afraid of what they'll do on the formulary. You're making the problem worse. Dump them. They're not, you know, they're not going to dump your product.
Yeah, they've been sued in so many states, and they just pay the fine and keep on rolling, right? And I don't get why people don't read those articles and don't understand.
And look at Medicare Advantage. It's even worse.
I know. It's crazy. So, well, hey, there's an opportunity, and
exactly right.
We'll see if we can make a difference out there, get patients on there, take care of them, get employers under our belt. so we can take care of them. That's the goal.
But I'm here to help. Look,
Okay.
there will be a tipping point.
Yes.
There's some number of lives where the PBMs are now, oh shoot, they lost all this market share, and then there won't be the IBM of the pharmacy business, right?
Yeah. Well, my goal is not to sell and actually get to the tipping point and get over it. Okay, Mark. Hey, thanks a ton.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Our special thanks to Mark Cuban for not just joining us today for this webinar, but for his insights on the pharmacy industry and the passion he brings to truly change the drug pricing game. As the two Marks said it best, we need your help to find the tipping point. Employers have a choice when it comes to lowering your healthcare costs and actually choosing a partner that's going to care for your employees. Brokers, you can move away from the traditional PBM models. With health strategists, you choose transparency in your drug pricing. You choose to have employees being treated like they would at the pharmacy. Thank you all for attending our very special edition of True Conversations with Mark Cuban. I hope you all are as excited as we are.